Big bike energy, small bike charm. That's something I kept coming across while researching the Royal Enfield Bullet 350. So, let's find out together if that's really the case.
I see it trailing all too fast, but I'm not leaving. And you go round and round and round, and you cannot see. I'll be right behind you, a hawk in the tree. You look so beautiful.
Many of you are probably already familiar with the classic 350. It hasn't been out all that long either. And I have to say, in essence, the bikes are very similar. The Bullet basically has the same engine, but visually they're actually quite different. And yeah, how much power are we talking about? We've got 20.2 or rather 21 horsepower and 27 Newton meters of torque. So not a huge amount going on here. It's really made for relaxed riding, for cruising. But yeah, anyone who knows the single-cylinder engines will probably be looking exactly for that in this power class, that calm, easygoing riding style. I still clearly remember the Balkan Rally. Back then we had the Royal Enfield Shotgun, although I think that was the 650, so basically a level up. And I noticed a lot of similar components on that one too, both the good and the not so good. And yeah, I have to say, in our test fleet, which also had a few other retro bikes in the mix, the Bullet was definitely the sofa. The seat is just insanely well padded, and the riding position is almost comically relaxed. On the Honda GB or the Meguro, you still feel a bit more active. Not sporty, but, you know, sort of sporty. But on the Bullet, I really felt like I was perched on the bike like a chevalier. I think a lot of people will actually love that, especially because it really encourages you to just unwind, relax, and take it slow. What I did find a bit disappointing though, and this happened with the Shotgun as well back then, was that even before we touched anything or set off, there was a huge amount of play in the throttle grip. It wobbled about quite a bit and needed some adjustment. That was a bit of a letdown. But something that really makes up for it is the sound. Because even if something is rattling, as soon as the engine's running, you forget about everything else. It's got that deep, full-on thump, the kind of sound the English word thump was made for, and it's just so much fun. While riding, I kept thinking, who's that behind me? I keep hearing this deep rumble, this growling sound I really like. And then I realized it's no one, it's me. And I honestly think a lot of people will fall for the Bullet just because of that sound. We've got a seat height of 805 millimeters, so it's definitely accessible for someone my size. I'm average to slightly taller at 1.76 m. And yeah, in our test trio, Jakob joined us for the first time and Carlos was there too. I think Jakob's a bit taller than me, Carlos a bit shorter, and none of us had any issues at all. It was super relaxed and yeah, we all had a great time. It was honestly good fun. The very first thing Carlos said to me was, "Amelie, please take it easy and don't try scraping the footpack." Which I didn't. At least I felt like I was riding gently and not pushing it. But in one corner, I think it was even the last one we did during the photo shoot, I scraped the footpack and was totally surprised. I really didn't feel fast. I didn't feel like I had much lean angle. I just didn't expect it. But that's when it becomes clear. This bike is really meant for slower riding. And if you've got a slightly more sporty riding style, which I do, I love riding with a bit of pace and lean, then yeah, you'll have to dial it back a bit on this one. But it's also quite interesting to test yourself like that. Do you get all twitchy and impatient and want it to go faster? Or can you actually just breathe and settle into the ride? I reckon on longer tours, you could still really enjoy yourself with this. I don't know if I do a full 6-hour day trip on it, but I think anything beyond just the daily commute, whether it's heading to your best mates or visiting family, shouldn't be a problem. That seat really does offer a ton of comfort. It's like a sofa. And even if you're riding 2 up, I reckon both of you would be comfy, no sore bumps at the end. Now, of course, the suspension, it's got twin shocks here too, and there's not a whole lot going on. It's a bit soft, doesn't really soak things up much, and you're better off steering around potholes rather than trying to ride straight through them. And the braking, I really struggled with that. I remember having the exact same issue on the shotgun. It just felt like there was no braking power at all. And I know I always hear this from my colleagues too, and I complain, but honestly, it's frustrating because it knocks your confidence in the bike a bit. But yeah, I get it. In this power and budget class, you can't expect too much. You're not getting a dual disc setup with sharp, aggressive bite. Still, for me, it's important to feel like I can rely on the bike, that I don't need to squeeze the lever 5 times before anything actually happens. So yeah, I found it a bit of a shame that the braking system is just a bit weak overall. That said, even if you take all the specs out of the equation and just focus on the feeling, on what the bike is trying to tell you, I'm still someone who likes having a bit of information. And since I've already mentioned touring and range, here we've got a 13-liter tank and an average fuel consumption of 2.6 liters per 100 kilometers. So yeah, that's actually pretty solid, I'd say. Pretty efficient too. The official claim is a range of 350 kilometers, but I reckon if you ride a bit more gently, you'll definitely get 400 out of it. And for me, that's another big plus point in favor of this bike. The only thing I'd say, especially for beginners, is that the weight isn't something to ignore. Just by looking at the Bullet, you can tell straight away this isn't some 140 kilo lightweight. We're talking 195 kilograms here, which is quite a lot in this class. But again, classic case of as soon as you're rolling, you totally forget about it. You don't feel it at all. It's definitely less agile than the Meguro, and with the low ground clearance, it's got a bit more of a chunky, lumbering feel. But you're still going to have fun, and it's still enjoyable through the corners.
And honestly, if you're more of an everyday rider, commuting to work or heading 50 kilometers out to visit a mate, you don't really have to hold back that much. But it does have to be said, on paper, this is definitely one of the heavier ones in its class. I always find it tricky to look at things completely neutrally, especially since we test so many different bikes. I think the last one I rode before this was the Speed Triple RS, the 1200. So when you then hop on this rolling sofa, the riding position just feels really funny and quirky. But it's got real character too. These days, there are so many of these modern classics, retro-style bikes. And often they try to be this in-between things, tapping a bit into both worlds. You get something close to a naked bike riding position, just a bit more relaxed. But the Bullet, that's a full-on cruiser retro. The foot pegs aren't set further back, the knee angle isn't sharp, your feet are basically right beside the tank. And that's where I'm curious, what do you think? Is that exactly what you want from a retro bike? That proper cruising posture, no desire to lean into corners, no missing that sporty feel at all. And yeah, I think it's great that Royal Enfield has fully embraced that idea, to strip away the active, aggressive riding style and lean completely into this laid-back armchair vibe. One thing I also really liked visually, and that fits the whole concept perfectly, is how they've gone old school without hesitation. There are no LED indicators here, you've got those classic rounded bulbs. And honestly, I just find them charming. Aesthetically, it suits the bike really well. Everything's a bit rounder and chunkier, and I love that Royal Enfield hasn't been afraid to stick with those old school touches. Now, if you do want to push the bike a bit and see what it can do, how fast can it actually go? Well, we were lucky enough to have a route that had a bit of everything. Twisties, long straights, some downhill stretches, some climbs. We all gave it a go, and I think the absolute max we hit was 122 Höchstkilometer. The official figures say between 110 and 120, and with a good tailwind, plenty of momentum, a bit of luck, And maybe a prayer or two to the big guy upstairs. Yeah, you might just hit 120, but it's definitely the kind of bike where you'll ask yourself, do I really want to overtake that lorry right now? Or maybe just hang back? So do you hang back? Take it easy, just keep that in mind. Yeah? This isn't a performance bike. It's about slowing down, breathing, enjoying the sound, enjoying the ride, the feel of the bike, that unique seating position, and the overall experience it gives you. Now, before I tell you the price, I've got one last question for all of you. For those of you who already know the Classic 350 and now you've seen the video about the Bullet, what do you think? Which one do you find more appealing? What's the advantage of the Classic or the Bullet? Or do you feel like they're so completely different that it doesn't even make sense to compare them? If that's the case, drop me a comment below and let me know. And yeah, what will the Bullet set you back? In Austria, it comes in at around 5,600 euros. So I'd say that's definitely on the higher end of the price scale. Right, in Germany, it's around 400 euros less, as is often the case with motorcycles. So yeah, in Germany, it comes in a bit cheaper. From the test fleet and the retro bikes I've had the chance to ride recently, I've got to say the Bullet isn't my personal favorite. Mainly because there were a few recurring things that, for me, I don't want to say felt cheap. That always sounds so negative, but just not particularly well put together. Things like the play in the throttle grip, where you constantly have to adjust, and the clutch lever also felt a bit clunky to operate. That sort of stuff can be a bit annoying, and I really think, especially for beginners or people getting back into riding, it should be as easy and accessible as possible. Those are the kind of components that just need to work. That aside, it really is a bike that can probably handle a decent day trip, no problem. And it absolutely embodies comfort from start to finish, but then it's got this surprisingly deep, punchy sound that really catches you off guard. I even noticed a few heads turning outside the ice cream parlor. It's a very characterful bike, and I reckon a lot of people are going to love it for exactly that. So let me know in the comments, what do you think of the Bullet? Or are you more into are the slimmer silhouettes among the retro bikes? Or are you like, nope, that sounds enough for me, I'll take it? Let me know. And if you liked the video, take care and I'll see you next time.